Chapter 1. Introduction. Ever been stuck in traffic behind a big rig and wonder what it's like to be that driver? Well, I can assure you that it's not as easy as it looks. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges truckers face: finding a safe place to park. The goal here is only to comply with HOS or hours of service regulations, but as written and enforced, it presents a real challenge to truckers. Comparable to having a government big brother in the cab of the truck with you. When a truck's ELD says stop, the trucker must stop, whether he is in a safe place or not. This isn't just about finding a spot to grab a burger and stretch your legs. For truckers, finding parking is often a matter of safety, and sometimes even breaking the law. The numbers are startling. The American Transportation Research Institute found that over 70% of truck drivers have had to violate federal regulations just to find a place to park. That's because there simply aren't enough truck parking spaces to meet the demand, especially along major highways and near cities. When truckers can't find legal parking, they're often forced to park in unsafe locations, on highway shoulders, ramps, or even abandoned lots. This puts them, and other drivers, at risk of accidents. And it's not just about safety. The lack of parking costs the trucking industry billions of dollars each year due to lost productivity and wasted fuel. Plus, it adds to driver stress and fatigue, which can lead to more accidents. Now, add another layer to this problem: ELDs, or electronic logging devices. These devices track drivers' hours to make sure they're following federal regulations on rest breaks. Sounds good, right? But here's the catch. When the ELD says it's time to stop, the driver is now at risk of violating federal law, for which he can be fined significantly. No more flexibility. This has made the parking shortage even worse. So what can be done? Well, we need to get creative. We need to expand existing rest areas, build new truck parking facilities, and use technology to help drivers find available spots. We also need to make sure there's enough funding to make these solutions a reality. This isn't just a problem for truckers, it's a problem for all of us. Truckers deliver the goods that keep our economy moving. When they're stressed, fatigued, and forced to break the law just to find a place to rest, it affects us all. So next time you see a truck on the road, remember the challenges they face. Let's work together to find solutions that make our roads safer and more efficient for everyone. Chapter 2. Hours of Service. What are HOSs? HOS stands for Hours of Service. These are guidelines set by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, a federal governing body which you are welcome to think of as safety police, but for big trucks and buses. The FMCSA is part of the Department of Transportation, a U.S. government body that oversees all things transportation. This includes roads, planes, trains, trucks, etc. The FMCSA has been tasked with making rules to help prevent accidents, make sure truck drivers are not overworked, and with a focus on preventing driver fatigue and ensuring truck driver safety while on the road. In a nutshell, hours of service, daily limits, driving time. Truckers can drive for a maximum of 11 hours after taking 10 hours off. Workday. Once they start driving, they have 14 consecutive hours to complete their driving, including breaks and other work tasks. Weekly limits. Total driving time. Drivers can't drive more than 60 hours in 7 days or 70 hours in 8 days. Required breaks. 30-minute break. Drivers need to take a 30-minute break after 8 hours of driving. Resetting the clock. 34-hour restart. To reset their weekly hours, drivers need to take 34 consecutive hours off. Why are these rules so important? Drowsy driving is a major cause of accidents. By limiting driving hours and making sure drivers get enough rest, HOS regulations help to reduce fatigue-related accidents, improve safety for everyone on the road, and protect the well-being of truck drivers. These rules might seem a bit complex at first, but they play a vital role in keeping our roads safe. What was the intent of HOS that caused it to come into existence? Hours of Service rules, or HOS, are all about keeping our roads safe. Hours of Service rules claim to be designed with the intention of fighting driver fatigue, a major cause of accidents. How does it do this? Limits behind the wheel. HOS puts a cap on how long drivers can drive without a break. making sure they're alert and not pushing their limits. Mandatory rest. Drivers have to take breaks, giving them time to recover and recharge. This isn't just about coffee, it's about getting real rest, counting all the hours. HOS doesn't just look at driving time, it includes all the work a driver does. Loading, unloading, inspections. It's about the total workload, not just miles driven. Healthy sleep is key. HOS encourages drivers to get on a regular sleep schedule. Consistent sleep is crucial for fighting fatigue on those long hauls. Now here is where it connects to truck parking. If drivers are required to take breaks, they need safe and legal places to do that. HOS and the ELDs that track it are only effective if drivers have somewhere to stop. That's why expanding truck parking is essential. It's not just about convenience, it's about drivers being able to comply with HOS, thereby making HOS work and ultimately keeping our roads safe. The HOS requirements were written to make things safer, but when combined with ELDs and limited parking, are HOS requirements actually creating new dangers for truckers and commuters on the road? While HOS regulations were designed with safety in mind, the current implementation, especially in conjunction with ELDs, has created some unintended consequences that actually reduce safety in certain situations. Here's why. Pressure to find parking. ELDs rigidly enforce HOS limits, sometimes forcing drivers to stop even when there are no safe parking options available. This can lead to drivers parking in unsafe locations, like on highway shoulders or ramps, increasing the risk of accidents. Rushed driving. Knowing their ELD is ticking down, drivers may feel pressured to speed or drive aggressively to reach a parking spot before their hours run out. This can lead to risky driving behaviors and increase the likelihood of accidents. Fatigue masked by compliance. While HOS claims to aim at combating fatigue, when considered in conjunction with focusing solely on compliance with the rules, it can sometimes mask underlying fatigue issues. Drivers may push themselves to the limit of their allowed hours, even when they are already tired, simply because the ELD allows it. I think this is a point that nobody talks about. So, while HOS regulations have the potential to improve safety, their effectiveness is hampered by the lack of adequate truck parking and the rigid enforcement of ELDs. This creates a situation where drivers are sometimes forced to choose between compliance and safety. This is detrimental to everyone on the road. It's important to advocate for changes that address these issues. Expanding truck parking. Increasing the availability of safe and legal parking spaces will allow drivers to comply with HOS regulations without compromising safety. Flexibility in HOS rules. Allowing for some flexibility in HOS rules, especially in situations where drivers encounter unforeseen delays or lack of parking, could help prevent dangerous situations. Focusing on fatigue management. Shifting the focus from simply complying with hours to actively managing driver fatigue through education, training, and technology could lead to more effective safety outcomes. Ultimately, a multifaceted approach that addresses both HOS regulations and the infrastructure supporting them is needed to truly improve safety on our roads. Chapter 3: ELDs. There exists a really important and frustrating issue for truckers. The shortage of truck parking is a major problem, and it's made even worse by the mandatory use of ELDs, or electronic logging devices. Here's why. The ELD mandate and its impact. Stricter hours of service enforcement. ELDs track drivers' hours, ensuring compliance with HOS regulations, limiting driving time before mandatory rest. No more flexibility. Drivers used to have leeway to extend driving slightly to find safe parking. Now when the ELD says stop, they must stop, regardless of location. The parking crunch. Limited spaces. There aren't enough truck parking spaces, especially along major highways and near urban areas. Increased demand. E-commerce has led to more trucks and higher parking demand. Rest area closures. Reduced funding has led to rest area closures or limited parking. The perfect storm. ELDs plus parking shortage. Imagine a trucker approaching their HOS limit. Their ELD warns them to stop, but rest areas and truck stops are full. The clock is ticking, forcing them to park in unsafe locations. Shoulders, ramps, or abandoned lots, risking accidents and fines. Continue driving illegally, risking fines and jeopardizing safety. Lose valuable driving time. Searching for parking cuts into earnings and delivery schedules. The consequences. Driver stress and fatigue. Worrying about parking increases stress and fatigue. Safety hazards. Unsafe parking increases accident risk. Inefficiency and delays. Wasted time searching for parking reduces productivity and causes delays. Economic impact. Fines and lost productivity impact drivers and companies. This is a convenient money grab by the government, wherein it opportunistically fines drivers for something they have no control over. What can be done? Increase truck parking capacity. Build more spaces at rest areas and truck stops. Improve parking information systems. Develop real-time systems showing available parking. This could be a great opportunity to develop a platform with a corresponding app that allows truckers to locate and reserve parking, like reserving a room for the night. Although this already exists currently, it's fairly rudimentary. There is extensive room for this to be developed across the country. Government support. Increase funding for truck parking infrastructure. What is an ELD? An electronic logging device, also known as an ELD, is a digital version of paper logbooks, automatically recording driving time, engine hours, miles driven, and location. Why were ELDs created? The main goal is to improve safety by preventing driver fatigue and ensuring accurate records. The problem: ELDs and the parking shortage. HOS regulations require mandatory rest breaks. When the ELD says stop, drivers must stop, even without safe parking. This forces them into unsafe locations, illegal driving, or lost time. The impact on truckers. This leads to stress, fatigue, financial hardship, and safety risks. Why it matters to everyone. This affects everyone on the road and impacts the delivery of goods. The bottom line: ELDs can improve safety, but the parking shortage has unintended consequences. We need solutions to increase parking capacity and ensure safe rest for drivers. The scope of the problem. Truck parking is a top concern for drivers. The lack of parking costs the industry billions and increases safety risks like accidents, cargo theft, and driver assaults. ELDs, exacerbating the existing crisis. ELDs have intensified the parking shortage, adding to driver stress and leading to risky decisions. Chapter 4. Truck Parking Shortage. There is a shortage of available parking for trucks. This point of view is supported by a vast body of data. The number of truck parking spaces hasn't kept pace with the growth of the trucking industry. Many rest areas and truck stops were built decades ago when there were fewer trucks on the road. This structure needs to be developed and streamlined. Building new truck parking facilities requires significant investment. Funding can be difficult to secure. It's important to convey the importance of this issue to the government and the private sector. Finding suitable locations for truck parking can be challenging due to zoning restrictions, community opposition, and environmental concerns. Typically, an array of groups are there lobbying, but truckers are not. We as a whole need to change this. We need to be heard. Chapter 5. Solutions you can advocate for. Advocate for expanding rest areas and truck stops to include more parking spaces. This is often more feasible than building entirely new facilities. Encourage your city council to explore options for developing dedicated truck parking facilities, potentially through public-private partnerships. Support the development and implementation of real-time parking information systems that show drivers where parking is available. Although many apps are starting to offer this, they need to incorporate information from across the country, as well as needing wider adoption by truckers. Promote the use of technology to reserve parking spots in advance. This can help drivers plan their trips and reduce wasted time searching for parking. Lobby your local and state representatives to increase funding for truck parking infrastructure. Federal programs like the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act can help, but local action is needed too. Work with your community to address concerns about truck parking, such as noise, pollution, and traffic. Solutions might include noise barriers to reduce noise pollution from idling trucks, electrification infrastructure to enable trucks to use electric standby power instead of idling, and traffic management to minimize the impact of truck traffic on local roads. When addressing this issue before a governing body, make your case. Present statistics and data to demonstrate the severity of the problem and its impact on safety and the economy. Share stories and anecdotes from truck drivers to illustrate the challenges they face. If you have personal experience, share it. Highlight how the truck parking shortage affects your community, such as increased traffic congestion, accidents on local roads, and potential economic losses. Don't just complain about the problem. Present concrete solutions and action steps that your city council can take. Be sure to present a well-researched and compelling case. You can also raise awareness about the truck parking shortage, as I'm attempting to do. Encourage local and state governments to take action. There is also the potential to address this at the national or federal level. These issues need truckers who are also willing to be speakers on these issues, willing to lobby our government and force them to listen. Chapter 6. Trucking-related issues likely to be on President Trump's agenda. First, engine emissions. EPA's greenhouse gas emissions, standard for heavy-duty vehicles. Standards will likely be relaxed to levels President Trump's advisory team sees as technologically feasible for internal combustion engines. The EPA is likely to relax its emissions rules for heavy-duty trucks by setting more realistic targets, allowing longer timelines for compliance, and encouraging the use of cleaner fuels like renewable diesel. Second, speed limiters. The FMCSA might postpone or even cancel its 2025 proposal on speed limiters for trucks. Furthermore, Representative Vance is trying to pass a law that would ban these devices entirely. Third, autonomous trucks. The government is stepping back and letting the trucking industry take the lead on developing self-driving trucks. This means they'll be relying more on feedback from the companies creating this technology. Fourth, trade tariffs. President Trump is likely to impose a 60% tariff on all U.S. imports from China and a baseline tariff on all U.S. imports, from between 10 to 20%. Fifth, corporate taxes. To boost American manufacturing, there's a proposal to significantly reduce corporate taxes for companies that produce goods in the USA. This could mean dropping the rate from the now 21 to 28% to as low as 15%. Additionally, the 12% federal tax on heavy trucks and trailers might be eliminated. Sixth, tort reform. Regarding labor law legislation, this will include expanding violations and monetary damages. President Trump is likely to support such legislation that will push trucking cases involving lawsuits into the federal court system. Seventh, truck parking. President Trump's team should address the expansion of funding through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA. The new administration needs to get serious about truck parking. Thankfully, we've got the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, which has money set aside specifically for this. But here's the thing, that money needs to be used, and used effectively. We need to see a real expansion of truck parking funded by the IIJA. It's a safety issue when drivers are forced to park in unsafe locations or push their limits due to a lack of rest. It's an efficiency issue when drivers waste time and fuel searching for a spot. President Trump's administration should maximize IIJA funds, get that money working to create new parking spaces, encourage private investment, bring in businesses to help expand parking options, use technology, implement smart solutions to make the best use of existing spaces, work with states and local governments, coordinate efforts for a nationwide solution. This is about making our roads safer and our supply chain stronger. Eighth, independent contractors. The Department of Labor recently made it harder for truck drivers to be classified as independent contractors. This has caused a great number of disputes between drivers and these companies for whom these drivers are hauling, with drivers often being classified as employees instead. However, there's a good chance this rule will be revised or replaced soon. Ninth, oil. Current oil production is at 13.5 million barrels per day, according to Energy Information Administration, EIA. Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. And 10th, infrastructure legislation. The $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill reauthorization for 2026. This bill includes $110 billion for roads, highways, bridges, and other major projects. These are some of the most likely issues that will be in front of President Trump over his next 4 years. Go 47. If you, the trucking professional watching my video, are able to speak before your local, state, or national government body, please share your story, as well as those of other truck drivers. Speaking from your own experience, illustrate the reality of the challenges that truckers face. Let's get this problem out there, front and center. Highlight how the truck parking shortage affects not only you, but also your community. Highlight the increased traffic congestion, accidents on local roads, and potential economic losses. Offer solutions. Don't just complain about the problem. Present concrete solutions and action steps that your local city council, county, or state government can take and possibly run with. They need to hear from us. Present a well-researched and compelling case. You can raise awareness about the reality of the truck parking shortage and encourage your local government to take action. I attend Morgan Hill, California City Council meetings, as you may have noticed from some of my other posted videos. I listen to and participate in local issues that affect my community. Do you? You should also participate. Throw on a suit and get involved. Our government needs to hear from its truckers. We need to address this very real issue of a lack of parking. Truckers should not have to compromise their own safety or that of other motorists, or pay fines for things over which they have absolutely no control. This structure, as currently enforced, is dangerous and imposes an unfair financial burden on truckers. Our government needs to invest in a better structure. Truckers are the backbone of our economy. Our voices matter. If you found value here, or you learned something from this video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more trucking content that is created for you. Credit to Google for my source material and to Google Gemini AI. That took the bulk of what I wrote and helped me to streamline my presentation, as well as answering my many questions. It is a very useful tool. This video was narrated by Amanda B. Reckoned With, brought to you by Foltz at Outward Divergence on his channel, Through the Eyes of a Trucker. If you have any suggestions for future trucking videos, free to leave your suggestions in the comments. Thank you for subscribing, you have a great day, and keep on truckin'.